Good morning, dear students. Liquidity preference theory of interest or Keynes theory of interest. Factors of production are four types. These are land, labor, capital, and organization. Production is collective effort of the factors. It has some value. The value is distributed among the factors of production as rent, wages, interest, and profits. Theories of interest. There are some theories of interest. The important theories of interest are subsistence theory of interest by William Nashville Sr., weighting theory of interest by Alfred Marshall, agio theory of interest or remuneration theory of interest by Bombauer, time preference theory of interest by Irving Fisher, marginal productivity theory of distribution, classical theory of interest, loanable funds theory of interest, liquidity preference theory of interest by J.M. Keynes, J.M. Keynes criticized classical employment theory and described the liquidity preference theory of interest in his famous book, General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money in 1936. The desire to keep money in liquid or cash form is called liquidity preference. The rate of interest is determined when the money supply equals to money demand. According to J.M. Keynes, okay, supply of money. Supply of, according to J.M. Keynes, money supply is determined by the central bank. It is constant in short-term period. In this diagram, we shown money supply is shown on x-axis, rate of interest is shown on y-axis, MS curve is money supply curve. It is parallel to y-axis. In this short-term period, interest is not influenced by money supply. Demand of money. Demand for money arises from the desire to keep money in the form of liquid or cash. Demand for money arises from the desire money in the form of liquid or cash. J.M. Keynes gave three reasons for holding money, such as transactions motive, precautionary motive, and speculative motive. Transactions motive. Transactions motive for liquidity preference relates to the desire of the people to hold cash for the current transactions or day to day expenses. Everyone is required to keep a part of their income in cash in order to purchase goods and services of daily use. The money amount saved under this motive depends on the level of income. Precautionary motive. Under precautionary motive, people will hold the money with them to meet the unseen or unplanned or unexpected or sudden things that may happen in their life, like sudden illness, road accidents, theft, unemployment, unforeseen emerging emergencies, etc. The ability and level of income positively influences the precautionary motive for liquidity preference. Higher the income, higher is the precautionary motive for demand for money. Speculative motive. Speculative motive for liquidity preference rates to the people's desire to hold the cash in order to take advantage of market movements regarding the future changes in the price of bonds, securities in the capital market. The rate of interest negatively influences the speculative motive for demand. The inverse relationship between the rate of interest and demand of the money. Money demand is shown on x-axis, rate of interest is shown on y-axis. LPC curve is liquidity preference curve or money demand curve. When the rate of interest rises, the demand for money falls, and when the rate of interest falls, the money for demand for money rises. The when the rate of interest is OR, demand for money is OM2. The rate of money, rate of interest increases from OR to OR1. The demand for money decreases from OM to OM1. The money demand for money increases more to OR2. The demand for money is decreases for OM. So there is inversal relationship between demand for money and rate of interest and demand for money. So the LPC curve has negative slope or downward slope. The determination of rate of interest. Rate of interest is determined when the money supply equals money demand. Money supply and money demand are shown on x-axis. Rate of interest is shown on y-axis. MS curve is money supply curve and LPC curve is money demand curve or liquidity preference curve. These curves are intersect at point E. At that point E, money supply and money demand are equal as OM. Rate of interest is determined as OR. It is equilibrium rate of interest. If changes in money supply brings changes in rate of interests. The demand for money is constant and there are changes in rate of money interest rates changes in interest rates when changes the money supply increases the rate of interest will decrease. If the money supply increases, the rate of interest will increase. Money supply increases from OM to OM1. The new money supply curve has formed left right side has M1S1. LPC curve and money supply curve, new money supply curve M1S1 intersect at point E1. The rate of interest is decreased from OR to OR1. If money supply decreased from OM to OM2, the new money supply curve has formed left side as S2 M2 S2. The M2 S2 money supply curve and money demand curve LPC intersect at point E2. The rate of interest increases as OR2. Changes in money demand brings changes in rate of interests. The supply of money is constant and there are changes in rate of interest when changes in money demand. Money demand increases. If the money demand increases, the rate of interest also increases. The money demand if the money demand decreases, the rate of interest also will also decrease. If the demand for money increases, new demand curve has formed as LPC1. The LPC1 money demand curve and LPC1 money demand curve and money supply curve MS intersect at point E1. The rate of interest increases as OR1. If the money demand decreases, the money demand curve formed as LPC2. The new money demand curve LPC2 and money supply curve MS intersect at E2. The rate of interest decreases from OR to OR2. Criticism on liquidity preference theory of interest. The theory is criticized by economists Hanson, Robertson, Knight, Hazlitt, and Hutt, etc. Keynes' overemphasis on speculation in money demand. Changes in quantity of money has no direct or lasting effect on prices. Keynes thought that the storage value of money is not fruitful, but Hutt thought that as with other financial assets of money has also productivity. Even though the interest rate is lower for much liquidity preference in crisis. Despite low interest rates and inflation will be higher in the liquidity preference. Wiener's explanation that interest is reward for savings. Without liquidity preference, there is interest rate. Most economists do not agree with the concept of liquidity trap. This is Keynes' theory of interest or liquidity preference theory of interest. Thank you.